Mrs. Barwig, it's time to start, but I don't see Miss Barnes on.
She just arrived. So we'll give her just a moment, please. Mr. Sexualty, we're going to get her tech fixed real quick. Okay, Mr. Sexualty, I think that we're all here. Is that correct?
That is correct. You may proceed.
Okay, thank you. I want to make sure we don't have any technical difficulties as far as we're good for the mics. Okay, thank you. All right, so welcome. Let's join in for the regular board meeting for Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021. Treasurer, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Eichenberg,
Here.
Mr. Vasquez,
Here.
Mrs. Gherkin,
Here.
Mrs. Barwig.
Here.
Miss Barnes.
Here. Thank you. And we'll move on to the pledge. And tonight it is a Bowser student, Miss Savanna Smith. Treasurer, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Savanna Smith. I'm a junior at Bowser High School, and this is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Savanna. Dr. Durant, the mission and vision, please.
Yes, Toledo Public Schools' mission is to produce competitive college and grade-ready graduates through a rigorous curriculum across all grade levels by implementing Ohio Learning Standing with Fidelity. Our vision statement is to strive to be an A-rated school district whose graduates are college and career ready. Thank you.
Thank you. And then section 2 is our presentation section. Dr. Duran, I'll turn it over to you, please.
Yes, I would turn this portion over to Ms. Patty Mazer. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We have a very special presentation tonight. We're talking about National History Day. And National History Day offers a year-long academic program that engage over 500,000 middle school and high school students around the world. The largest NHD program is the National History Day Contest, which allows students to conduct historical research on a topic of their choice and then share their findings to their peers in a competition style. The regional National History Day competition results were recently announced, and I'm proud to say that 11 students from Toledo Technology Academy have moved on to the state competition. Tonight, Mrs. Katie Asmus, a World Studies teacher at TTA, and Elijah Madansky, one of her students, are joining us to tell us more about NHD. Hi, Katie, are you connected? Katie, can you hear me? Katie?
Hi, I'm sorry. My volume was down, so I wasn't sure if you were done talking.
Okay, it's all yours. The stage is all yours. You and Elijah both. Thank you.
Okay, is Elijah here? I don't know. I can't see everybody. We don't use Zoom in my classroom. Oh, there he is. Okay, perfect.
Yes, Elijah.
All right, hi. Like Patty said, I'm Katie Asmus. I teach World Studies at TTA. She already gave you a little bit of information about NHD. I'll just give you a little bit more. So 3 years ago, my coworker, Andy Brandt, and I decided to bring this program to TTA. As you guys know, we're, engineering focused, more science-based, but we thought that this would be a good way to introduce some more historical thinking skills, some creative thinking skills, research skills to our kids. And it's been a big success at TTA. Like she said, this year obviously has been a tough year for everybody. All of my students worked all year virtually with me on this project. So how it works is they do research for the first part of the year. Then they take that research and they create something with it. So they can choose to write a paper, do a performance, create an exhibit, create a website, or I'm forgetting the last category, it's escaping me. But it allows them to use that research and their creativity and work on those soft skills that they don't know that they're learning, but they are learning how to do that through this project. So I asked Elijah to join and share his project that he developed, and he did qualify. He's moving out of state. If the students do well at state, they get to go to the national competition, which will be held in June. And we did have one of our students last year who qualified and attended the national competition virtually. So we were pretty excited about that.
Can you hear me? So I am Elijah. I'm a freshman at TTA, and my project advanced to a state competition. And I picked my project because I already knew of the Donner Party, but all I knew was about the cannibalism. And I just wanted to find out more about them because they're like a major part in America's history. And I always like to check if there's a lot of information about them. And I just researched websites, I watched a documentary, and I read a book. And a lot of my information for this project came from one website, and I emailed the director of this website, and it was the Donner Party Historical Society. And we emailed back and forth, and he gave me a bunch of websites to look at, and he gave me a bunch of information of his own. And he told me about this Forlorn Hope expedition that was going on with these extreme athletes that were hiking the trail that the Forlorn Hope took over the Sierra Nevada mountains. And I followed their journey, and they had this podcast sort of thing that I watched. And there's a theme every year, and you have to relate your project to that theme. And the theme this year was communication in history. And I had Donner Party was the topic I chose. So I decided to focus on how bad communication doomed them. And then I created my thesis, and you have to make a process paper in annotated bibliography, and then you have to plan what you want to do for the exhibit. And the first thing I did was I made the covered wagon with wheels and this, and a seat too. And you can also not go above 500 student generated words. So you have to be really precise with what you want to put on your board, because I chose to do an exhibit. So you have to be really precise on what you want to choose, is you can only have 500 words. And if you go over that, it won't count. And I shared my board with the director of the website, and he wants to display it in California because he has like a museum thing there. And one of the hikers invited me to hike the Forlorn Hope Trail that they did this winter. And that's my project.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I am very intrigued by that, and we certainly would like to check out your board as well before it gets sent off to California. Any other board member comments?
I just wanted to say how much I love that the board was made into the covered wagon. It really communicates the time and the era that you were trying to capture. So very, very impressive. And I love having to use less than 500 words to say something that what a change.
Yeah.
Katie, excuse me, Katie, this is Patty. If you could have a picture taken of Elijah with his project before it heads off to California, we'd love to
Absolutely.
share that on social media and in the bridge.
Okay, great. Will do.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good work, both of you.
Yes, bravo.
Awesome. Okay, that is our presentation for the night, and now we will go on to retirees, and we have several. We have Dennis Cartman, who was a custodian at Sherman Elementary. He is retiring with 28 years and 3 months of service. Michael T. Cowan, student success specialist in career technology with 29 years. Dan Holly, Assistant Director of Food Service with 26 years. Greg Jones, a 5th grade teacher at Longfellow Elementary with 33 years of service. Angela Junk, I believe is how you say that, teacher at Glendale Fieldback with 35 years of service. Donald Kerr, English teacher at Bowser with 33 years. Janet Lehman, a physical education teacher at Early College with 33 years. Carolyn Metcalf, she's a teacher at Burndale with 26 years of service. David Pitzenbarger, teacher at Robinson with 33.5 years of service. Deborah Oberhauser, first grade teacher at Burroughs with 26 years of service. Regina Okarowski, a registered nurse. She's at Rogers with 26 years. Mary Rodriguez Noble, librarian at Rogers with 30 years. Sandra J. Spatz, she is the music teacher at Grove Patterson, sorry about that, with 36 years of service. Diane Thorpe, she's a teacher consultant with 34 years. And Sandra Yervik, a teacher at Hawkins with 36 years. This is a total years of service to Toledo Public Schools, 497 years and 8 months.
Wow.
We certainly wish all of these folks nothing but the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's incredible. And I know a few of those folks, and I'm certainly not looking forward to them leaving the district. Well, we appreciate all the retirees. All right, we'll move on to section 3, and there are no community comments at this time tonight. Section 4 is our organizational input. And let's see here, I think Mr. Ramirez is on.
Thank you for having me. And I want to give a shout out for Patty. I think we do allow people to take a day off if you're that sick. I thank you for struggling through that, but thank you for being here. With that, I was thinking about tonight, and I did want to acknowledge the people at Colorado that lost their lives yesterday, and the Georgia mass shootings. And I hate to say it, but one is too many, and it continues to happen. So my heart goes out to them and their families through that process. On a good note, I am happy about the COVID vaccine participation amongst administrators, teachers, and basically all of TPS staff. I'm happy to see those numbers, and I want to encourage everyone to get that shot when it becomes available. And I hear that there's some good news that there may be some opportunities for Toledo residents and other folks, age requirements being lowered to where everybody can get a vaccination if they want one. And we encourage them to get one so we can get back to normal as soon as we can. So I just want to thank anybody in TPS in that process, or health department, or whoever's working to make that happen. So we're happy to get back and get our kids back into school when we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Anyone from TFT on?
I do not see anyone from TFT or AFSCME.
Okay, all right. Well, that will be the end of our organizational input then. Let's move down to board member comments. Ms. Barnes?
Thank you, Madam Chair, President. I love saying that. So first, I want to piggyback off what Mr. Ramirez said about, the good of the vaccines are coming out and folks are participating and taking those to make sure our kiddos and our staff is safe as they re-enter school, whether hybrid or full-time or however they choose to. But I really want to give a shout out to Dr. Durant for being one of the first of TPS to take that plunge because of his bravery and looking at the facts and understanding how important it is for a lot of folks in different communities to get that vaccine. He inspired me to do so as well. So thank you, Dr. Durant, for being the true leader you are for our district and Toledo in itself. And I want to also just thank my fellow board member colleagues and the administration staff and Dr. Durant for continuing the efforts of inclusion and diversity. I didn't know if we was going to mention it today or not, but we are going to start participating with some board level positions for the Hispanic and Latino community. And thank you to Mr. Vasquez for chairing that and let me help you with that. I think that's important representation that we need also in TPS. And I am so proud to work for a district and with amazing folks that see the need and address it immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Eichenberg?
Thank you. I had a couple of comments. I just wanted to, before it gets lost in the news cycle, things happen so fast. I wanted to congratulate our Scott Bulldog class of 2021 on the opportunity presented to them by Hope Toledo. I know that they are last year for the students who were offered the college or technical training scholarships, you know, that the Scott administration and teachers worked really hard to get as many kids into as many programs to take advantage of that as possible. So I know that that's work for the school and I appreciate it. And we're really excited for those kids and their families to have that opportunity. And I wanted to thank the Hope Toledo folks. On a totally different note, I did want to note that House Bill 67 was signed by the governor on Saturday, and that has implications for our juniors and seniors so that if they were unable to take a test, an OST, that would have, and of course, exam that would have helped them graduate, they can count their course grade instead, which will help many of our students. Obviously, last year there wasn't testing, and this year kids will be coming in to test after having had, you know, just a whole different experience. Some of them trying to help, you know, their younger siblings with school while they were also trying to attend school when it was all virtual. And that's a very, very difficult thing to do. So, I'm glad that the legislature was able to extend that opportunity. I will admit I'm a little disappointed that we have to take any of the tests this year for graduation. I think we should just trust our teachers and our administration and let them assign the grade the student earned and let the student accrue their points towards graduation through their classes, because that's why they go to class. But at least we did get some relief for the juniors and seniors. So I wanted to make that clear. The other thing I wanted to say is COVID is still a thing. So you can see my fellow board members, we did a hybrid meeting. The fellow board members that are there in person have their masks on. Unless people are alone in their office, they have their mask on. We need to continue to do that. I run numbers, they're available, but I do a cut, once a week and send it out to some administrators and I copy our board president. And, the numbers have been declining and we had great declines for a while. And now we're kind of stuck. The numbers aren't moving very far down. There's this new variant in Lucas County. I just want to emphasize to anybody who might watch this, please wear your mask. It's the most effective tool we have. We may have a vaccine, but that doesn't mean it's time to go out and throw a backyard party, even though the weather is beautiful. Maybe have your friends over if you're vaccinated and they're vaccinated, follow those CDC rules. But if not, then don't do it. And just be careful. So it's still a thing. You can still get sick. Even if you had the vaccine, you can still get a little bit sick and nobody wants that. So wear the mask and help us out, help our kids get to come to school because they get to stay healthy. So, they can't have the vaccine yet. They're depending on you to go get yours and to be cautious. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vasquez.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me through my double mask. As Mrs. Eichenberg had pointed out, we are still masked up and I have a double mask. And I just want to take my time to encourage everyone to get vaccinated. It's the only way we're going to get to a point where I think that we're going to feel at least semi-comfortable, that we're not going to get sick or get others sick. So I just want to encourage that. And just acknowledge that I am double masked. So if you have a hard time hearing me, I'm okay if you ask me to repeat myself or I'll find a way. So congratulations to our folks from earlier in the meeting, and everybody stay safe and stay healthy. Do what you need to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor Gherkin.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I'm having a little FOMO because I can tell some of you are there. Could you just move your camera around? Let me see the boardroom, maybe? Could I just see the boardroom? I haven't seen it in so long that like my chair, maybe my name tag. Yes, thank you.
Ms. Barnes will do that for us. There you go.
Thank you. That really made my day. So I am hoping to be able to join you live by our next board meeting. I feel like after spring break and, we're going to ease into this just like everyone else. And I appreciate you guys being there. Again, vaccinate, 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 and anybody that we can convince to vaccinate along the way, is going to ensure that we're all able to stay healthy, especially for bringing the kids back to school. Kids are, ready. We're ready for them to be back. I'm feeling confident that we can have them back safely. So that's, I'm glad that, that's imminent. I want to say one more thing about the relief from the legislation today that's basically allowed for a lot of different ways for students to graduate in case they couldn't have taken all of the tests that they needed to take. If you read through that, it really does end up being the judgment of the teachers and the administration one way or another. And if they're going to go so far as to leave it to the judgment of the administrators and the teachers with specific guidelines in place, of course, passing the course. And I love that they added, the work ready certificate as another way to say, yeah, you're worthy of a diploma. But, you have to wonder why they didn't just say, don't take the test. And I think we all know the answer to that. And that's because somebody is making a ton of money off these tests and off our kids having to take the tests. If it turns out that we really aren't using the tests to determine if a kid graduates or not, why are we making them take the test, right? So it's a relief, but the underlying motivation for these tests shines through in a decision like this even more so than some of the others. So that was disappointing. Congratulations, the retirees. This is the time of year where we see a large number of retirees because we like to know by this time so we can plan for next year. So there's a little bit of an incentive for folks to let us know sooner rather than later. At the same time, when I look at the list of experienced teachers that are retiring and certainly should be retiring at 30 and 34 and 35 years, they've contributed. It's time to retire. For them, it might feel like it's time to retire. For us, it feels like, oh, could we please just hold on to you for a few more years? And with the shortage of teachers, I'm wondering what it would take to explore some sort of an incentive to keep people a little bit longer. So be the opposite of incenting someone to retire, but maybe we incent them not to retire along the way. Just, a little bug in our treasurer's ear there. And, a lot of people are talking about all this money that's going to be coming by way of COVID relief funds, right? Whether it's to city government, county government, or school districts. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of money. And sometimes, that's a blessing and a burden both, because along with a lot of money comes a lot of, regulations and ways we can spend it or not spend it, a lot of soul searching, a lot of people wanting to decide how the money should be spent and that sort of thing. And I think the most important thing to remember is it's a one-time influx of money, right? Even though we can probably spend it over several years, we can't count on it as permanent money to do some of the things we really know would make a difference, right? That we can't afford over the long haul. Many of you know I live with another elected official who said, what can we do for this with this money? What would really help education if we really, if all the different bodies of government got together? And I said, well, why don't we make going to college, if you're going to get an early childhood degree, free for the next 5 years? Or why don't we pay for college degrees for people who are in education for the next, that's sort of short term, but we can't do that, right, Mr. Steckschulte? He's shaking his head no. Oh, see what I mean? Every time you think you've got an idea, there's a regulation behind it. So, the point is we've got to find a way to use this money in the short term to make some transformational changes in the way we do business that don't necessarily cost the same amount of money year over year. So I'm going to be interested in putting some smart people in the room to figure out how we can recover from COVID in a way that takes the emphasis off catching up to some artificial bar of where we think kids need to be at any given moment to recovering from what some people think might not have been the most perfect system of educating kids in the first place. And so maybe we can, use that to really do some transformational things. And I would, challenge our folks to get in the room and see if we can figure that out.
Thank you, Ms. Gherkin. So I just have a few things. One, I would like to also congratulate the Scott Bulldogs and really thank Hope Toledo. Such an exciting opportunity for them. And I look forward to seeing the fruition from that. I'd also like to just mention that the TPS Foundation, and we'll hear more about this soon, they're doing a major gifts campaign, and I'm really excited about what that could bring to the district. And again, we'll hear more about that soon. A few things about board meetings. So we're going to continue in a hybrid mode through the rest of the school year. And then our board committee meetings are going to remain remote because there are so many people that usually attend those particular meetings. And with the guidelines changing, I just feel better that we have those in a remote setting. And I think it works for us right now. I'd also like to take a moment to talk just briefly about House Bill 200. And that is the quote unquote tweaks to the report card. And I put that in quotations because it is a negative connotation in my mind, the report card, but at least this is a stepping stone. And this is the first step to changing that report card. Again, you've heard a lot from board members about moving forward, and I'm so proud of my colleague, Stephanie Eichenberg, and our district and several other districts that have gotten together via the Ohio School Board Association and created, what we call an annual report, annual review, or we're still creating a name for it, I think, but it's a proposal to really change how K-12 education is reported out to parents. And I think it's a positive. So HB 200 doesn't get us there, but it's a step in the right direction. So hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to support that as a full board. And then, of course, I'm going to echo what everyone else says about the vaccines. I just was blessed to be able to get my first shot last week. And, I'll get my second shot next month. It's important. It saves lives. And as does this mask. I know they're just pieces of cloth, but it does help. And so thank you for those that wear them. We appreciate that. And then I'd like to thank our staff and families. I know that this has been a really trying year. And you know what? I see light at the end of the tunnel. And if we can just hold on a little bit longer, we're going to get through it together. So thank you for your perseverance throughout this year. And, your love of students that really shows through in what you do. So thank you. Okay, so end of board member comments. Let's move on to our section 6, which is consent agenda. So items 6.01 through 6.19 are the consent agenda items. Board members may request to pull an item from the consent and move to the discussion section of the agenda. Item 6.01 to 6.04, Human Resources, Staff Development and Training Committee. Chair is Polly Taylor Gherkin, co-chair Stephanie Eichenberg. Item 6.05 to 6.08, Finance and Business Operations Committee. Chair is Bob Vasquez, co-chair is Chris Varwig. Item 6.09, Technology Improvements and Process Committee. There are no action items this month. Chair is Stephanie Eichenberg, co-chair is Polly Taylor Gherkin. Items 6.10 and 6.11, Board Curriculum, Instruction, Academic Excellence. Chairs Polly Taylor Gherkin, co-chairs Chris Varwig. Items 6.12 and 6.13 are Policy Committee. Chair is Sheena Barnes, co-chair Bob Vasquez. Item 6.14, Arts, Athletics, and Student Activities. There are no action items this month. Chair Stephanie Eichenberg, co-chair Chris Varwig. Items 6.15 and 6.16, Family and Community Engagement Committee. Chair Bob Vasquez, co-chair Sheena Barnes. Items 6.17 to 6.19 are approval of board meeting minutes. So I'd like to request a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, treasurer, please call the roll.
Mrs. Eichenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Vasquez,
Yes.
Mrs. Gherkin,
Yes.
Mrs. Varwig,
Yes.
Miss Barnes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Section 7 of the agenda consists of reports and minutes from this month's committee meetings and are here for information and reference only. No action is required, so we can proceed to Section 8 of the agenda. Section 8 is discussion, and 8.0 is a resolution to enter negotiations for student transportation services. Add that out. Okay, let me go ahead and read this resolution first before we start the discussion. Whereas the district is required by law to transport designated students, and whereas the contract with the Toledo Area Regional Transit Authority, TARTA, for student transportation services expires at the end of the current school year, and whereas the Toledo Area Regional Transit Authority, TARTA, is no longer able to provide transportation services due to regulatory issues, and whereas modifying the TARTA contract and service so that it is compliant with regulations while meeting the district's needs would substantially increase the cost. And whereas the request for proposal for student transportation services was advertised for the 2021-2022 school year, and whereas several proposals were received by the district in response to the request for proposal for student transportation services for the 21-22 school year, and whereas another significant and proper due diligence, a recommendation to enter into negotiations for a contract with Trinity Transportation Services was determined to be in the best interest of the district. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education, after careful consideration and evaluation of the information before it, that Section 1, the treasurer and deputy superintendent are hereby authorized and directed to negotiate a contract on behalf of this board with the various terms and provisions which they deem requisite and proper in order to implement a contract for student transportation services with Trinity Transportation for the 21-22 school year. And Section 2, the board president, treasurer, superintendent, and deputy superintendent are hereby authorized to sign and execute the negotiated contract on behalf of this board. Section 3, the board hereby finds and determines that all formal actions related to the adoption of this resolution were taken in open meeting of this board, and that all deliberations of this board and of its committees which resulted in formal action were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable law. Section 4, this resolution shall be in full force and effect from and immediately after its adoption. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion, please.
I just want to say, I know this was very challenging with everything for our superintendent and the admin staff, and I appreciate the hard work to make sure that we keep our promise to have student-centered atmosphere. And with that being said, anything that makes transportation one of the major needs we have in our district less of a barrier, I do appreciate it. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mrs. Varwig. So there's just part of me that's struggling with this, with the notion that Toledo High School students will not be among those using the public transportation services in our city. To me, if we value public transportation, we need to expose our young adults to it. We need to contribute to the critical mass of our residents using public transportation. We need to be sure our students know how to use public transportation. Now, this doesn't mean that I think it's our duty to pay some unreasonable amounts of money to TARTA to make this happen. It means that I believe it goes both ways, that TARTA has some obligation to transport students in an urban setting, And we surely have some obligation to expose students to and promote the growth in public transportation in our community. Maybe it's just me, but the optics of thinking of teenagers exclusively riding yellow buses versus a TARTA bus as part of the community, it just seems a bit off. And further, the track record and reliability and safety of TARTA and the fact that the workers are represented by a union at TARTA appeals to me much better than contracting with a school bus company that we don't know a lot about. I value the relationship between a large public school district and the community's public transit system, and I believe it's worth exploring all of the options. My understanding of the situation is that after 40 years of transporting our kids, TARTA recently found that regulations preclude them from providing us with dedicated routes for our kids and notified us that they would be ending our contract. I'm by no means an expert on this, on the ins and outs of it, but might something as simple as putting those routes on a schedule take care of the issue? I can't help but think that there's more to this. And I certainly appreciate the administration's efforts to find a solution and save considerable dollars. And I understand they were in a time crunch when they had to get busy and work on this. But I'm just not quite satisfied that we've exhausted all avenues for continuing the decades-long partnership with TARTA. And maybe the time for digging into this further should have happened at the time we were notified by TARTA, but I think we all have had a lot going on, a lot on our plates, and it needed to be worked on as quickly as possible. And I know my kind of late in the process objections, I don't want them to in any way negate the fact that I know that our administration worked hard to come up with a solution. I will not be supporting this resolution. And I am going to ask administration to include going back to the table with TARTA in their ongoing efforts to provide safe, affordable transportation for our students. And I would ask for the board president to be part of those conversations as appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gerken. Anyone else? All right, hearing none. I will just say that I understand what you're saying, Ms. Gerken. I do. It makes me sad that we have come to this conclusion. I will also say that I am always a big fan of bringing services in-house. So I do like the idea of bringing, having more employees in one of our bargaining units. I do like that portion of it. As far as Trinity is concerned, I am also concerned about it being non-union. At the same time, I also know that we are in a bit of a bind. It's coming down to a very tight date, very tight timeline, I should say. And the amount of dollars that we're going to save is substantial. So at the end of the day, I'm going to support this, but I am a bit hesitant about it. Just because I do also believe that having a community connection with our TARTA services for our students is important. All right, with that said, Mr. Vasquez, go ahead.
I just want to add to that, in the perfect world, I think it would be good for TARTA to be able to transport our students, but they have said that they cannot legally do that. So we have instructed the administration to find some solutions, and they have spent a matter of months trying to find those solutions and have come up with one. If TARTA is saying that they are unable to do that, then we have to find another solution. So this is the best solution, and I agree. I wish that TARTA would be in a position to go ahead and provide that transportation, but they're saying that they cannot. So we have to go in a different direction.
Anyone else before we call for the vote? Okay, Treasurer, please call the roll.
Mrs. Eichenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Vasquez,
Yes.
Mrs. Gerken,
No.
Mrs. Varwig,
Yes.
Ms. Barnes.
All right, thank you, everyone. And we're going to head to section 9 then, please. And any walk-ins this evening?
None that I know of.
And then section 10 is early childhood education action items. Chair is Polly Taylor Gherkin. Co-chair is Sheena Barnes. Mrs. Gherkin, I'll turn this over to you at this time.
So is Dr. Allen on the call? We do have 3 action items, and she should be able to
Sure.
tell you.
So we are asking for approval on 3 separate applications. This first one is a carryover request from budget period 2 that we were unable to expend COVID complications. 10.02 is another carryover request, and that is carryover of a small portion of our CARES funding that we received. And 10.03 is a COLA application. There is a new COLA award for all federal programs that we were awarded and needed to apply for. So we're not able to bundle those. I do need a separate vote for each one.
So I move 10.01.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Treasurer, hearing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Eichenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Vasquez,
Yes.
Mrs. Gherkin,
Yes.
Mrs. Varwig,
Yes.
Ms. Barnes.
Yes.
All right, and then 10.02 is carryover CARES.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Treasurer, please call the roll.
Mrs. Eichenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Vasquez,
Yes.
Mrs. Gherkin,
Yes.
Mrs. Varwig,
Yes.
Ms. Barnes.
All right, and then 10.03 COLA funds application.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Treasurer, please call the roll.
Mrs. Eichenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Vasquez,
Yes.
Mrs. Gherkin,
Yes.
Mrs. Varwig,
Yes.
Ms. Barnes.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Moving on, let's see, section 11 of the agenda consists of early childhood education reports and minutes from this month's committee meetings and are provided for your information and reference. There's no action required, so we can proceed on to section 12. Are there any early childhood walk-ins, Ms. Gherkin?
Nope.
Okay, great. All right, we'll move on to section 13, superintendent comments.
Again, want to echo what many of you have echoed regarding the Scott class of 2021 and their scholarship. I think that's great, and they're also continuing to honor not only a graduate but a family member, which is very great to see family members be able to strive together. So I think that's phenomenal, and continue to be a great story for Scott Bulldogs. Again, thank you for in support and being out too, and thank you University of Toledo, Dr. Posto, and congratulations to him. But Toledo Early College ribbon cutting was a great success. The students have been excited to be in the building. It's one thing to be there and walk through, is another thing to be there when kids are there, and so it's very exciting to see the enthusiasm and the excitement on their face to really embrace the environmental entity that's there as we continue to evolve in each of our schools. So again, it's just a reflection of the work done through the board partnership as well as the district, as well as community and staff really providing an opportunity to this community. So again, thank you for all that. And if I don't see you, happy holiday as we move into the spring season. Good Friday is coming upon us as well as Easter. So if I don't see you, happy holiday to you. Keep us proud. and Ms. Barnes, TPS proud.
Thank you, Dr. Durant. Thank you. I love that. All right, Mr. Schulte, comments from you.
I have no comments this evening.
All right, board members, comments. Ms. Barnes.
I just want to keep everybody encouraged. You know, the staff and educators across the board in our district are doing a wonderful job trying to navigate through this pandemic. And I see the kids are very excited to come back. The things that the Smart Kids discussion I've been involved with are amazing. I think everyone is definitely making a difference. And I just want to make sure everybody stay encouraged. And to my fellow board members, thank you for what you do beyond the board meetings as far as advocating for our students and our educators. So I'm just really, you know, blessed by the heavens to be with everyone in this district. Thank you.
Ms. Eichenberg.
Yeah, I just wanted to finish with a couple of thank yous that I should have thought of earlier. I wanted to give a shout out to our early childhood area. You know, they stay on top of making sure that we never miss out on an opportunity to fund the activities that we really need for our youngest and most vulnerable kids. And I think that there is a lot when it comes to the feds to keep in mind and a lot to keep track of. And then they combine it with the state regulations at the same time. So I was, you know, we did those 3 quick votes, but those represented a lot of work. And I wanted to thank also then my board colleagues who sit on that committee, Ms. Taylor Birkin and Ms. Barnes. You know, that's super important work. And this year, I cannot imagine the challenges with the really little kids. It's hard enough if you're talking primary kids, but those small children, helping them out virtually and then having limited time with them, but still trying to get them to where they need to be the healthiest, happiest kiddos they can be before they walk into our buildings for kindergarten. You know, really, I really appreciate the work of that department. So yeah, and again, just thank you to everybody for all the hard work you've put in. It's not been an easy year. We're not done yet. And we did have a good time at the TAAP ribbon cutting ceremony. It was a small group. It was a COVID compliant group in order to make sure that we followed all the rules. But you know, my daughter said to me, she is a 7th grader there, and she said, "Mom, it's a beautiful building." You know, when you can impress a 7th grader with a building, and it's not, you know, like something they saw on Instagram or other social media, that's probably for old people, sorry. You know, that's really impressive that you can get a 7th grader to think about the beauty of a building. So hats off to our team and the University of Toledo team who work together to collaborate to make a nice space for our Toledo Early College kids. I know it won't be our last project like this, so you know, let's squirrel away how we collaborated and think about that and use it as a best practice going forward. Thank you. Also, I do want to take a moment to thank. It's hard sometimes when we have something on the agenda and you're the only person who says, you know what, I have a problem with it. So I just want to shout out my respect to Ms. Gerken for sticking to her guns and saying, you know, how she felt and the things she's worried about with the charter transition. I don't think it's perfect either. I don't think any of us do. But I do appreciate you taking the time to really talk through it. And I hope that, you know, administration has given you their ear. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vasquez.
Yes, I'd just like to, I'll start off by echoing what Mrs. Eichenberg just said about our colleague on the TARTA issue. Those are legitimate concerns that are raised. And like I said, it would be nice if TARTA could continue their service and say that they were able to provide that service. And the other issue is I want to thank everybody for navigating, all of our staff, navigating through the pandemic. And I also want to thank and give a shout out to Lucas County Health Department for the great job that they're doing for making sure people are getting vaccinated. I guess a shout out to them and all of their partners. I think that they're doing a good job, and I think that everything is orderly and we're getting those vaccines and vaccinations in the arms of people. And I also want to thank everyone for making our teachers and all of our staff a priority so we can try to get our students back in person and back into our schools. So I just wanted to give a shout out to everyone. Thank you.
Ms. Gerken.
So I would just piggyback on the comments about tech, because my focus group of one is also a tech student. It's the only one I have these days is my almost 16-year-old granddaughter, who it's, you know, I feel so privileged if she's sharing anything with me these days. And I'll tell you what the two things were so far. On day one, it was, Grandma, my seat in English class is a couch. So we love all the flexible furniture. And then today it was, Grandma, Nissen is my algebra sub. So the kids are so happy to just see Mr. Nissen's face that, you know, she found it necessary to mention to me that he was her algebra sub today. So I'll take it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you to Ms. Eichenberg for representing the board at the tech ribbon cutting ceremony. I certainly appreciate that, your representation for the board. And then, you know, graduation is around the corner, right? And so I'm super excited for our graduates. I know it has been such a long year, struggling year, but we are all so proud of our graduates. And kindergarten registration is right around the corner. So things to get excited about. There's light at the end of this tunnel, and there is always positives in our district. Again, I will say our career tech programs are unmatched. And I certainly hope that our families throughout the community take a look at our career tech programs, MAC 2020, right, Dr. D? So with that said, let's entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, treasurer, please call the roll.
Mrs. Eichenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Vasquez,
Yes.
Mrs. Gerken, Mrs. Harwig,
Yes.
Ms. Barnes.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, everyone.